Irrevocable damage. That's the phrase. Not heartbreak, not regret. Irrevocable damage. That is the shocking price avoidants pay when they lose you. You see, they don't scream. They don't weep. No, their wounds are quiet, silent enough to trick the world into thinking they're untouched. But oh, they pay. My God, do they pay? This, dear listener, is the shocking price avoidants pay when they lose you. Let me take you back. Decades ago, I knew a man, a colleague. Let's call him Charles. He fancied himself a gentleman of supreme control. Dapper suits, polished shoes, conversations clipped like bonsai trees, disciplined and miniature. He dated women like one collects art, on his own terms, hung them on emotional walls, and when things got too messy, he'd retreat. Too much, he'd say. Too fast. He believed in exits more than he did in entryways. But then there was Lily. Soft eyes. Unshakable presence. She stayed when others left, and left only when staying meant erasing herself. He thought she'd be another chapter. She ended up being the whole book. And when she walked, Charles aged 10 years in one. Wrinkled not just in face, but in soul. He lost something he couldn't even name. That, my friend, was the moment the debt collectors of avoidance came knocking. Avoidants don't lose loudly. Number, they lose by carrying ghosts. Phantom lovers stitched together from the best bits of their exes. Frankenstein hearts, if you will. Gina never needed him too much. Clara gave him space. Helga, Helga, never left a toothbrush behind. And thus, the Phantom X is born. Not a person, a composite, an unmatchable illusion cobbled from memory and fear. This illusion becomes the avoidance crutch, their weapon, their curse, and over time it becomes their prison. They keep a death wheel turning, you see. First comes relief, space, glorious space. Then the quiet sets in. The silence that once meant freedom now whispers, "You're alone." After that, the longing creeps in like fog beneath the door. They miss you, but they don't know why. They miss the part of themselves you managed to touch. Softened, seen. A part now inaccessible. And here's the kicker. The Phantom X isn't about you. It isn't about Gina, Clara, or Helga. It's about the absence of a need they've repressed for so long, they've forgotten how to name it. Love. Real, reciprocal, frightening love. You see, avoidants grow from a particular soil. Not hard ground, no. Empty ground, where cries went unanswered, where closeness came with conditions. They learned early that dependence meant disappointment. So they traded vulnerability for safety, intimacy for solitude. And they survived. Oh, they excelled in survival. But survival is not living. There's this remarkable study, Romanian orphanages, post-1989, rows of babies lying silent. Not because they had no needs, but because they learned no one would answer their cries. A silence so loud, researchers called it the loudest stillness on earth. These children didn't cry because crying had no return on investment. And this is the foundation of avoidance. Silence in place of connection. Self-reliance in place of trust. But avoidance doesn't eliminate the need for connection. It buries it. Deep, like radioactive waste. And when someone like you comes along, warm, attuned, present, it sets off a kind of internal tremor. At first, they drink it in. They think, finally, I'm understood. Stage 2 of the death wheel. My troubles are over. But then, the panic. They pull away. You want to leave a toothbrush? God forbid. You mention the word us, and they flinch. Not because you did anything wrong, but because closeness hurts. It brings the old wiring to the surface. The ghost of every unmet need, And so, they sabotage. You feel them go cold, don't you? Like summer, turning to autumn without warning. But here's the twist. They don't forget you. They remember everything. The tilt of your head when you laughed. The way your voice cracked when you spoke about your dreams. The time you sat quietly next to them and made the silence safe again. They remember it all, but only after you've gone. That's the shocking price. They miss you most when they know they can't have you back. And that phantom ex, it starts looking more and more like you. And they hate that, because if they miss you, that means they needed you. And if they needed you, well, that breaks their core belief, that they don't need anyone. Now let me offer you a warning, because this story has a gravitational pull. It's tempting to think, I can save them. I'll stay long enough. Love them hard enough. But that, dear friend, is how you get pulled into their solar system. And like any dying star, they can't help but consume the planets that orbit too closely. You are not their savior. You are your own sun. Your job is not to orbit their chaos, but to keep your own system stable. Love does not mean erosion. Empathy is not martyrdom. Let them see you thrive at a safe distance. Stable, radiant, whole. It may be the first glimpse they've had of secure love. Because here's the paradox of the avoidant. They fear the very thing they crave, and the more they avoid it, the more they fracture. They may never say it, but losing someone who truly saw them, someone who made space for their humanity without punishing them for it, is the greatest wound they'll ever carry. It festers in the quiet. It whispers in the dark. And though they may move on, laugh again, find someone new, the ghost remains. You remain. And that, my dear listener, is the shocking price they pay. They lose you, but they lose themselves even more.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.